The offseason has begun for the Ducks, and so that means we got to talk about the future, from free agencies to draft picks and much more, all on this episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome, everydayers. Thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Kyle Carr, and I'm a lifelong Anaheim Ducks fan, and I've been covering collegiate sports for multiple years, including college hockey. But today we're talking about the Anaheim Ducks, and it is the offseason for the Ducks as we all sit here and watch the postseason Stanley Cup playoffs. But it's time to look at the future for us in Anaheim. So we got to talk about some of the things that are key factors to build off of for the future of the team already in Anaheim. And then we're going to look at some of the free agency issues coming up and then talk about the possible draft selections that Anaheim will have available to them. But first, let's get into kind of a little bit of a review of the last season and the bright spots that the team can build off of looking into the future, going into this offseason and into next year. Honestly, the Ducks, they improved over the season. They had a lot of good little bright spots. They improved in the standings, 21 points from 59 points to 80 points in the standings. That's obviously a really good thing there. Coach Cronin gets let go with that improvement, as it just sounded like there was a lot of issues going on in the locker room and players not really tuning into his style, and just there's a way to talk to players and there's a way not to talk to them. And it sounds like it was just not a conducive locker room. So he's out of there. But overall, there was at least he brought in some structure and brought in a lot of accountability for the team. They seem to go from a team that would just get down and out and just let games get away from them, and really became a team that was actually battling until the final whistle. In most games, there was a couple there here and there, but that with a young team, that's going to happen. But it was definitely a team that got a lot more established in continuing to play a full 60-minute game. And there were actually quite a few comeback games for Anaheim. So they were constantly in the battle and they were not letting their heads down and just letting the game get away. And that was a massive, massive improvement from the seasons prior. They had 5 20-goal scorers this year, and 4 of them are part of that younger core. The oldest player was Frank Vetrano, and then underneath him, Troy Terry. But then you have Mason McTavish, Cutter Gauthier, and Leo Carlsson. And we got to remember that Mason McTavish is only 22 years old. He seems like he's this rigged vet at this point, but he's only 22. He has so many years ahead of him. Leo Carlsson, that man, he is the bright spot of the team right now. He was absolutely brilliant this year. And the best thing about that is there is so much more to his play. We have all the faith out here as Anaheim fans that he will be a bona fide superstar. Some might even say that, yes, we got snubbed from the Connor Bedard pick, but show me a Ducks fan that would rather have Connor Bedard over Leo Carlsson. The way he's fit into this team, the way he's really taken on the Anaheim personality and the persona and the way he interacts with fans, he's an absolute keeper, and the Ducks are so lucky to have him, and he's such a game changer. He is going to be an absolute star once he gets under his wings, and he really started to get to that stride this year. And then Cutter Gauthier, his ally, the two dynamic duo that will be, it's basically the third dynamic duo in Anaheim Ducks history. I see as Leo Carlsson and Cutter Gauthier. But Cutter, I mean, he had a rough start at the beginning of the year. There's all the drama from him coming over from the Flyers, and he had one game last year. Then he comes out, plays a full 82 games. That is absurd to go from a few 40 game, like basically a 40 game season in college, only playing on the weekends, to playing a full 82 season. He was to stay healthy for all that, to stay in the coach's good graces, to actually stay in the lineup and not get healthy scratched. An 82 game season, your first full season, that's outstanding to see. And for him to break 20 goals, he started to catch his stride at the end, and it really helped with him getting put up with Leo Carlson. That was a massive game changer for him. Just the way he is able to take over plays, and he really started to get used to playing with speed and physicality and really staying strong on the puck. He was a little bit rough on the giveaways at the beginning of the year, but towards the end, he really locked it down, was able to pretty much keep the puck on his stick, or if anything, give it off to his other players. Not a lot of turnovers there at the end of the year. Always something brilliant to build off of. And I already mentioned it before, Mason McTavish. He is only 22 years old, and he is honestly sneakily becoming an all-star player. From his goal-scoring prowess to his forecheck to his playmaking and his 200-foot game as a center, completely taking over as one of the Ducks' main keystone players of this team. And we'll get into it in the next segment. He is in the free agency talk right now, but I do not see him not becoming a Duck or continuing to be a Duck in the future. This guy ended this year at 22 years old. He gets 22 goals. He had 30 assists. His plus minus was a 0. So that just shows, yeah, take the plus minus however you want, but he is not giving up goals, but he is also scoring them. It's just a great time for him as he continues to improve. He had all season's best across the entire board this year. So just cannot wait to see the way he steps up. And one of the guys that helps him step up is Trevor Zegras. And Trevor Zegras, say what you want about him, he had his moments. Last year was a little rough. I think that initial just kind of jump into the league with social media and being on the NHL cover, and just there was a lot of not really positive but not really negative attention on him that first year, and then having the injuries and coming back, getting injured again this year. But once he came back, I think he really had a mental escape from all that and really put a lot of effort into improving himself as a professional and as a player. And you could see his 200-foot game got so much better. He was playing a lot more responsibly on the defensive end of the puck and was still creating brilliant offense out there. Yeah, his goals weren't as high as previous years, and granted, he was out for injury, but he did start getting up there. He got in the double digits. So his play was there, and he also, his assists were getting up there as well. But if you look, he had so many beautiful plays this year, from laser, just picking the seam type assists, to behind the back spinorama assists, to working below the net. And like, his ability to pick not just that first guy, but his ability to see depth, where it's not just the first, the second. He's seeing that third guy down, and he can pick them tape to tape real quick. And that's something that the Ducks will definitely build off of as he's getting healthier. And then we got this entire squad built around that. And of course, we got to talk about the defensive core, starting with Jackson Lacombe. He has taken the charge of this new young defense. He's continuing to push, continuing to have a great season. It was such a flash. I don't want to say a flash in the pan, because that means it was only once. This was a staple of a new season. Going from last year to this year, the way he was able to step up, 1, defensively, 2, offensively. And if we get a coach that, yes, Cronin helped him come to that success, considering he was the coach for those 2 years, but getting someone that's going to really take the next level out of him will be just dynamic for Anaheim. If they can get someone that can get the positivity for these young players and really take the improvements that they had this year and push it forward and really build their confidence and build them up as men and as players, it's going to be very dangerous to play in Anaheim or for Anaheim to play against you in your hometown. And honestly, it comes down to reps, reps, and reps. That was one thing that was a really kind of weird this year with Greg Cronin is you have guys like Pavel Minchikov and Olin Zellweger that are these young, strong-nosed, really talented defensemen that were sitting on the bench. They weren't even playing in San Diego. They were getting healthy scraps, watching from the press box. And yeah, you can watch so much hockey, but playing reps is where it comes. Puck touches, being involved in the situation, really being in those minutes. And I think there was I think Pat Verbeek was trying to help save Greg Cronin's butt by saying it was kind of part of his plan, but I don't think that was the entire. I think might have been one of the things leading to Cronin getting let go is his mismanagement of the younger defensemen and not allowing them to come into the lineup and not really sitting veteran defensemen that were struggling when the younger guys weren't. So there is a lot of youth. There's a lot of great things that came out of this year that the Ducks can build on in the future. But one of the things that is coming up that can be a hindrance to that is RFAs, restricted free agents, and UFAs, unrestricted free agents. And there's quite a few of them. So we're going to get into that right after this. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes it betting so easy. There's so many different things that you can bet on. You got 3-pointers, assists, steals, tip-offs from game parlays, personnel. Like there's every little thing that you can think of. I'm not even that big of a bettor, but I do it on FanDuel because it makes it easy enough for me. Don't miss out. Head to fanduel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Now, looking at the RFAs and the UFAs coming up, there's quite a few of them. So I'm going to list the RFAs first and then get into the UFAs, and then we'll kind of just break down some thoughts on those different players. So the RFAs, RFA stands for restricted free agents. These are guys that they are still under the rights of Anaheim, but this year the Ducks have to sign them, or if not, they get placed. Basically, they will have no contract and will be able to eventually, if that year they wouldn't be able to play the year, and then someone would have to pay them the next year. But they can also say there's a team that's interested in an RFA. So, like, let's say the New York Islanders are interested in Mason McTavish. They can make a qualifying offer to Mason McTavish, and he has to agree to it. But then the Ducks will either have to match it or he goes to that team. So like, there was some incidents with St. Louis. They offer sheeted 2 of Edmonton's RFAs, and Edmonton decided not to pay them, and so they became to Blues players, and they have been absolutely destroying over there in St. Louis. So this is something that the Ducks definitely want to avoid, especially with some of these names that I'm about to list. So the top one, the first RFA, Mason McTavish, and then we got Lukas Dostal, Drew Hellison, Isaac Lundestrom, Brett Leeson, and Tim Wash, the new guy. And then some UFAs, that's unrestricted free agent. These players, they can go and they don't have to have the whole qualifying offer and then the Ducks matching or anything for them to go. They can just go out and seek whatever team they want and go ask for offers, ask what they'll give them, and they can sign with any team that offers them an offer that they want to sign. So it's a little trickier. The Ducks kind of have to come out a little stronger for the UFAs, but the names that are on the UFAs, they're kind of in there. Someone that I think Anaheim was really looking to have more out of this year, but unfortunately got injured, was Robbie Fabry. He is a UFA coming up. Brock McGinn, also another injury. Oliver Chillington, kind of an interesting situation there. And then Ville Husso, the third goaltender who ended up backing up Dostal and had some pretty brilliant games with Anaheim. So right now, the big number that matters for all of this is that the Ducks' current cap space is $15,781,648. So that is a ton of money. It sounds massive, but that can go very, very quick depending on what types of deals Pat Verbeek is trying to sign. And the big issue is, does Pat Verbeek want to stick it out with this younger core and put the money into the prospects and this young talent and really keep it in-house? Or does he want to go shopping and try to get some bona fide veteran goal scorers and bring them in? So there's a couple ways that Verbeek can use this cap space. It's nice to have, but it also can be a hindrance because if you're trying to not use it and then you end up not paying a guy and he goes elsewhere, it can be an issue. So lots of room. Where does Pat Verbeek want to go? Well, for the two RFAs that I really want to focus on, Mason McTavish and Lukasz Dostal, I definitely think Verbeek will be spending the money to keep them here. They're in talks. I don't see it going a negative way with either player. It sounds like with McTavish, and from what I'm hearing and what we talked about in our previous episode, it sounds like McTavish will most likely get a bridge deal, maybe a 3-year deal at $4 million or 3 years at $5 million. I see more of a 4 and 4, so 4 years, $4 million, or possibly a 4 and 5, 4 years at $5 million. Pretty decent bridge deal right there. Keeps him in Anaheim for a few years. It doesn't take away all of his playing years. You think about it, he's 22 right now. 4 years, that leaves him at 26. He can by that time, he can definitely go on and play elsewhere if things aren't going the way he wants to in Anaheim. And it also makes him tradable if for whatever reason things get sour between him and the club. He's still a decent trade piece and isn't a massive contract for the Ducks to unload. As for Dostal, this is the goalie of the future for Anaheim, and I definitely think the Ducks need to keep him and sign him to a longer-term deal. The only red flag that you could say for them in their minds is the way that Gibson is. He was here for so long, and he's been just an absolute workhorse, but injuries have become an issue for him. So do you sign this younger goalkeeper that could possibly end up having injury if he's playing a lot? Where does that stand? But I don't see a reason for him to not get an 8-year deal at least $8 million. 8 and 8, that's a solid contract with the type of goaltending that Dostal brings and the caliber. It's going to be an absolute bargain, as Biz Nasty says, of a deal by the time he really gets into his steam and the way it goes up, and the cap is only going up. So the amount of money that teams have to pay players is going up and up and up right now. After that freeze with COVID, there's so much more money coming into the league with these new teams coming in. So an 8x8 is not a bad deal for either player. It could even go higher at 8x10, 8 years, $10 million. I don't think that's a bad decision by Pat Verbeek. Now, one of the guys that I think, Drew Hellison, this guy, I think he earned himself at least a 2-year deal. It doesn't have to be big bucks, but he was a pretty reliable player, and he's still got a lot of oomph behind him, and he's not that old of a player. He's got some time to build. So a 2-year deal after the season that he had this year, I think that's reasonable. 2 years, $1 million. Pay him. Boom, done. Isaac Lundestrom. This is a guy that I am not sure about. Yes, he's an RFA, so that means a team has to offer him a deal for anything like that to happen. I don't see Anaheim not paying him. I just don't see a lot of money going his way. And if anything, I see him being a sign and trade. So sign in for maybe a 2-year contract at like $950 and trading him off, or a 1-year deal at $1 million, trade him off to another team. He was supposed to be a defensive center, and he's a homegrown center. He's been with the squad for quite a bit, but his defensive numbers this year were struggling, and it it's just kind of it's tough because I like the player, I like the way he is, and I like the way he sees the game from a defensive perspective. But he was struggling this year, and I think it would be very wise of Pat Verbeek to do a basically a sign and trade and try to get some assets back for him. Tim Wash, he's the new guy. I definitely could see him be getting a 2-year deal, kind of like that an extended entry level deal. It was kind of weird that they had him sign the 1 year with the RFA this year. I think it was really to give him a chance and to see if other teams wanted to offer and then to give him a signing. But I definitely see him coming into the Ducks lineup. He's very much the type of player that Anaheim would love to have. He's a massive center. He's a great goal scorer. He played really, really well, and he won the NCAA national championship. So that's a lot of like confidence and just powerhouse coming into the squad. So I could see him getting some time down in San Diego and then coming up to the Anaheim squad. So we'll see what happens with him. Brett Leeson, I think he'll be a sign and trade. Don't really see him hanging out much longer here in Anaheim. Loved you. He played pretty all right, but he could definitely be something that can be used to get some assets back. And now as for the UFAs, this is a little trickier. They can go Pat Verbeek. Well, like I said, the players, they can go hunt for deals elsewhere. Robbie Fabry, though, he's injured. So I'm not sure how well that's going to go with trying to bid. The Ducks would like to have him if he does get healthy. So that might be a little bit of a negotiation piece that Anaheim can use to keep him around for a little bit longer and not lose him for too expensive of a paycheck. Brock McGinn, he's also injured. So it sounds like he may or may not be done. I've heard interviews saying former Anaheim Duck Brock McGinn. So with his injury, it might be a Dunskies for him. And then Oliver Chillington is a complete unknown at this time. He was just kind of a rental there at the trade deadline for Brian Dumoulin, and not sure if he really has a future with the Ducks, but he could be, around just to be a asset piece, but don't really expect much there. And then Billy Husso, this is, like I said, I think he's going to be he would be a really good backup goaltender to have based on Gibson's health. I like the way that he played. I like the way he came up to Anaheim. He had really good numbers out in St. Louis. And then when he went down to San Diego, he was playing really well. And he was playing out of his mind against Winnipeg. So I could see him getting signed if Gibson looks like it's going to be a much longer term injury. That all really just comes down to the internal conversations there and seeing how that goes. But the future is all about drafting, and the draft is coming up. We're going to look at some draft options, and based off of where Anaheim ended up this year, some of the picks that they may or may not be getting this year. So we'll get you just some names in your mind for you. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I honestly love picking up a bag of the no-shell variety because if I just need some quick protein punch while I'm in between my hockey games or my son's hockey practices or meetings or whatever it is, I need a little extra pick-me-up. Boom, handful of Wonderful Pistachios. It's the snack that keeps you going. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Now we got to look at the future, and that involves the draft. So I'm going to just go over some names of potential draftees. Basically, these are picks that land around where Anaheim may or may not fall in the draft scale. Right now, they are the 8th best odds. It's at like, I think 6% of possibility of getting the first overall pick. So not very likely. They may or may not slide up from spot, but basically in that, we'll say 6 to 10 zone. And here's some of the guys that are making waves and will most likely be in that area for Anaheim. So first off, we got Victor Eklund. He's a left winger in York Gardens IF. That's in the Swedish Hockey League. And from what scouts are saying, he is a dynamic winger known for his speed, offensive instincts, and tenacity. Despite his size, he competes hard and is effective in puck battles. His skill set aligns well with the Ducks' emphasis on developing skilled forwards. So a lot of that sounds pretty good to me. That's definitely someone to keep interested. However, he's kind of up in the higher rankings right now, so he may or may not be picked by another team. Roger McQueen, he's a center. Brandon Wheat Kings in the WHL. McQueen is a powerful forward with a strong physical presence and scoring ability. His size at 6'5", 197 pounds, and he's a right-handed shot, make him an intriguing option for Anaheim. So definitely someone to keep an eye out for. That's a massive body, 6'5", 197. Not many right-handed shots. I like my righties. I'm a right-handed shot, so let's go, buddy. Jake O'Brien, center for the Brantford Bulldogs in the OHL. O'Brien is a smart, all-around centerman whose stock has been rising. He brings a balanced game with both offensive and defensive contributions. So kind of just a balanced player there. Nothing extra standouty, but, it sounds like a pretty good pick there. Then Radim Mrtka. I'm going to assume it's MRTKA. So Mrtka. He's a right defense for the Seattle Thunderbirds. I am sorry, Radim. I am not sure how to pronounce your name, but when you become a Duck, I will figure it out. He's in the WHL. Mrtka is a towering defenseman at 6'6". Okay, Zdeno Chara, with excellent skating and skill. His right-handed shot, another righty. Let's go, buddy. And physicality could bolster Anaheim's blue line. The only thing is Anaheim's got a lot of defense in the pipeline, so I'm not sure if they're really going to be trying to get a D. A right-handed shot would be a different, but they have so many they have not right-handed, but they have so many defensemen in the pipeline. We got Sidorov, we've got Tristan Leno, then we just brought up Ian Moore. There's a lot of guys that are in the defensive pipeline, so not exactly sure if they'll be going that route. And then Carter Bear. So this is a guy that I've been seeing on a ton of mock drafts end up on Anaheim in a bunch of different websites. Like if you just Google mock draft Anaheim Ducks, there was literally one 14 minutes ago tonight on Wednesday, and it has Carter Bear going to Anaheim at 8th. And that's a lot of different websites that I've been seeing with him in there. So Carter Bear, may just keep an eye out. Plays for the Everett Silvertips in the WHL. Massive fan of the Silvertips. I love the way they construct their team up there. Carter Bear, he's a center and a left winger. I think it's pretty ironic that Carter Bear plays for the Everett Silvertips, which is a Silvertip bear. Bear is a versatile forward known for his two-way play and leadership qualities. His adaptability makes him a valuable asset for Anaheim's future lineup. And like I've said, I've seen him in a ton of mock drafts on the Anaheim selection. So keep an eye out, keep a lookout, go check out some of the highlights of these players, but definitely Carter Bear, keep an eye out for him. And then we got Braden Coots. He's a center with the Seattle Thunderbirds at the WHL. So a lot of WHL players here for Anaheim, I guess, sticking to that West Coast, able to get scouts out there a little bit better and keep a little bit better eyes on there instead of going all the way out to the East Coast and the QMJHL and KHL and all that. So Braden Coots, center with the Seattle Thunderbirds. Coots is a smart center with strong face-off skills and defensive awareness. His well-rounded game could complement Anaheim's development strategy. So another player that is a center, that's a big thing I think the Ducks are going to be focusing on, is getting a bigger center, someone that's got scoring capabilities. So not a lot of defense, but a lot more centers and some wingers, or guys that can play kind of that center winger back and forward type gameplay, because they definitely need to bolster up that center position. Maxim Agafonov is our last draft pick prospect that we will be talking about. Maxim Agafonov, he's a right winger for Russia in the KHL, and Agafonov is a skilled winger with a high hockey IQ and offensive creativity. His international experience adds depth to Anaheim's prospect pool. So he's played quite a few World Junior. Well, they haven't been in the World Juniors, but he's been playing in the KHL. He would be on the World Junior squad if Russia was allowed to come play, and possibly in the Olympics if they're allowed to play this next year. Still a lot of weird stuff going on in the world, so we'll see. I feel bad for the kids. Yes, there's the world going on, but these kids that are growing up to play hockey, you don't get to choose where you're born. And these kids are putting their heart and soul into their hockey careers. And it just upsets me that these guys aren't allowed to compete against their international peers. So that's my 2 cents on that. But that's about as political as I'll ever get on this podcast. Speaking of, thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And that's where you can find this podcast with no political jargon whatsoever. And we will be all the way covering you during the off season. We'll have tons of more conversations about the draft and free agency, and anytime any news comes up about this team, you'll be having it here on Locked On Anaheim Ducks. Once again, I'm Kyle Carr. Be good out there.